The galaxy had seen this scene 1,000 times before. A vast fleet, perfect formation, absolute dominance. And somewhere at the edge of the system, a single insignificant ship, too small to matter, too weak to fear. High Commander Zeos watched the tactical display from the bridge of the Eternal Sovereign, his massive form unmoving as for burning eyes studied the stars. 400 warships hung in space behind him, their crystalline hulls reflecting starlight like sharpened blades. 400, enough to erase civilizations, enough to turn planets into ash, enough to remind the galaxy who ruled it. Confirmed status, Zeo said, his voice calm, heavy with certainty. All Dominion vessels are in final approach formation, his tactical officer replied. No resistance detected. The human colony remains defenseless. Zeos allowed himself a slow, satisfied breath. Meridian 7, 200,000 humans, farmers, engineers, children, a message waiting to be sent. The Dominion of Keth had ruled this sector for 50,000 years. Entire species had risen, begged, resisted, and vanished under its shadow. Humanity was simply the latest mistake, a young race that had forgotten its place. They would remember. Then an alert chimed, a single tone, not urgent, not dangerous, just unexpected. High Commander, the sensor officer said slowly, uncertainty creeping into his voice. We have a contact. One vessel exiting faster than light at the system boundary. Zeos turned, mandibles tightening. One, he repeated. Yes, Commander. Origin human. Silence spread across the bridge. Then laughter. It began with a low chitter from the weapons station, spread to navigation, then erupted fully. Officers leaned back, claws tapping consoles in amusement. One ship, someone scoffed. Against this? Zeos did not join the laughter immediately. He stepped closer to the display. Show me. The image resolved. A human vessel, angular, scarred, industrial. No elegant curves. No living crystal hull. Just layers of dark metal welded into something functional, ugly, stubborn. Tiny, barely a tenth the size of the Eternal Sovereign. The laughter returned, louder. They sent one ship, Zeo said at last, disbelief laced with amusement. How poetic. Perhaps they came to surrender, an officer joked. Or to watch, another added. Front row seats to their own extinction. Zeos raised a clawed hand. The laughter died instantly. Open a channel, he commanded. If they wish to be remembered, let them speak first. The screen shifted. A human bridge appeared, tight, utilitarian, filled with hard light and quiet discipline. At its center stood a woman. Human, small, still. She did not smile. She did not flinch. She simply looked back at them, as if they were the ones surrounded. I am High Commander Zeos of the Dominion of Keth, he announced. You have entered restricted military space. Identify yourself. The woman met his gaze. Captain Elena Vasquez, she said calmly. United Earthship Prometheus. More laughter rippled across the bridge. One ship, Zeos repeated. Captain, do you understand what you are facing? I do, Vasquez replied. Zeos leaned forward slightly, towering over the display. You stand before 400 warships, he said. A fleet that has burned worlds older than your species. You cannot protect your colony. You cannot protect yourselves. I'm not here to protect myself, Vasquez said. That caught his attention. Zeos narrowed his eyes. Then why are you here? There was a pause. Not fear, not hesitation. Calculation. I'm here to give you a choice, she said. The bridge erupted again, this time sharper, louder. A choice. Zeos laughed openly now. You bring one ship and offer choices? Yes. The laughter faltered, not because of her words, but because of her tone. No desperation, no bluffing, just certainty. You are about to annihilate a civilian colony, Vasquez continued. 200,000 lives. You can turn back now and leave the system. Zeo stared. Then he laughed again, but colder this time. You mistake restraint for weakness, he said. We will erase that colony, then erase your ship and then erased the memory that humans ever thought themselves equals. Vasquez nodded slowly. I expected that answer. Then you understand your fate, Zio said. I understand yours, she replied. For the first time, something stirred in Zio's chest. What message did you come to deliver, Captain? He asked. Her lips curved, not into a smile, but something sharper. You study humanity for a few centuries, she said. You saw our wars, our failures, our divisions. She leaned slightly closer to the camera. You never study what we build when we're cornered. The channel cut. The human ship remained motionless, silent, waiting. What was that? An officer asked uneasily. A bluff, Zio snapped. Nothing more. Yet his gaze lingered on the small vessel. It didn't flee. It didn't charge weapons. It didn't beg. It waited. Maintain course, Zio's ordered. Target the colony. The human ship will watch. Yes, Commander. The fleet advanced. 400 warships moved as one, unstoppable, inevitable. And far ahead of them, the lone Earth vessel remained still. Inside the Prometheus, Captain Elena, Vasquez exhaled slowly. Core status, she said. Charging, came the reply. All systems nominal. She looked at the distant wall of enemy ships filling her display. 400. They laughed. They always laughed. She folded her hands behind her back. Good, she said softly. Let them. The Dominion believed power was visible. It believed in fleets you could count, weapons you could measure, empires you could map. Power, to them, announced itself with banners of energy and hulls grown over centuries. That belief was their first mistake. Humanity had learned a different lesson. The strongest things in the galaxy were rarely seen. Long before Prometheus ever drifted into the shadow of Meridian 7, humanity had already vanished. Not physically, strategically. When the first alien invasions came, when human cities burned and entire populations were cataloged, enslaved, or erased, Earth learned a brutal truth. Any civilization that could be found could be destroyed. So humans stopped being easy to find. They stopped building singular command worlds, stopped centralizing leadership, stopped trusting visibility. Instead, they learned how to disappear. Across Dominion space, humans worked quietly. They cleaned corridors aboard alien stations, maintained reactors on conquered worlds, mined asteroids no one bothered to catalog. They were everywhere and nowhere. The Dominion called them auxiliary labor, non-threatening biological assets. Useful, replaceable, invisible, exactly as planned. On a barren moon cataloged as K-317, a human maintenance crew repaired a Dominion sensor relay. The task was routine, logged, ignored. What the Dominion did not log was the microsecond delay introduced into the relay's calibration. A delay too small to notice, too precise to detect, but one that caused sensor echoes to smear just enough to hide things that did not want to be seen. On a trade hub orbiting a red dwarf, a human logistics analyst rerouted supply manifests. Nothing dramatic, just a change in formatting. The result? Dominion fleet movement data passed through 3 human-controlled systems before reaching command. Copied, archived, studied. On a frozen mining world, human technicians installed what they called thermal stabilizers inside Dominion power conduits. They were not stabilizers. They were listening posts. Humanity did not steal Dominion technology. They observed it, mapped its habits, tracked its assumptions, measured how slowly an ancient empire reacted to subtle change. The Dominion believed secrecy required force. Humans knew it required patience. Captain Elena Vasquez had been a junior officer when the first phase began. She remembered the briefing room, windowless, deep beneath Earth's crust, shielded from scans that no one officially admitted existed. 12 officers, no insignia, no recording devices, and one simple rule. If this plan is discovered, the Admiral had said, humanity ceases to exist. No pressure. They called it the silent web, not a network in the traditional sense. No central hub, no master node, No signal that could be traced. It was a philosophy. Cells that did not know each other. Systems that communicated indirectly. Data that moved like rumors, not transmissions. If one part was discovered, it would reveal nothing. If 10 were destroyed, the rest would continue. The Dominion had conquered 17 species by crushing their centers. Humans made sure they had none. Years passed. The Dominion noticed nothing. That was the point. By the time Meridian 7 was targeted, humanity already knew, not from a distress call, not from intercepted orders, but from absence, a trade route that went quiet, a patrol schedule that shifted slightly early, a fuel requisition that spiked by 3%. To the Dominion, it meant nothing. To the silent web, it was a scream. Deep inside the Prometheus, Commander Miguel Torres reviewed projections that had been updated long before the ship ever jumped into the system. They'll arrive with 400 ships, he said quietly. Elena nodded. They always overcommit. They'll laugh at us. They always do. Torres hesitated. And if they don't? Elena looked at him. Then we wouldn't be here. The Dominion believed humans were reactive. They believed humans responded emotionally. Anger, fear, desperation. They never understood the most dangerous human response. Preparation. Across dozens of systems, silent web nodes activated. Not to transmit, but to stop transmitting. Human workers went still. Maintenance delays stacked. Minor systems across Dominion infrastructure hiccuped simultaneously. Nothing failed outright, but everything slowed. Fleet coordination lagged by seconds. Command decisions took longer. Redundancies activated that had not been tested in centuries. The Dominion's greatest strength, scale, became friction. High Commander Zeos felt it as irritation. Orders took longer to confirm. Reports arrived slightly out of sequence. Data that should have been crisp felt blurred. Minor system inefficiencies, his officers assured him. He accepted the explanation. That was his second mistake. The silent web did not exist to fight battles. It existed to shape moments. By the time the Prometheus appeared, the battlefield had already been prepared. Sensor shadows existed where none should. Response times were fractionally delayed. Fallback protocols routed through compromised systems. The Dominion still saw 400 ships. What they didn't see was how alone each one had become. On the bridge of the Prometheus, the countdown continued. Elena stood motionless, listening to reports flow past her. External sensors stable. Core charge increasing. No Dominion response to our presence. They're confident, Torres said. They always are, Elena replied. She glanced at the tactical display. 400 ships, and 1,000 invisible threads tightening around them. Long ago, humanity had learned the cost of being seen. Every city that burned, every colony that fell, every species that underestimated them, they had paid in blood. So they learned something better than strength. They learned discretion. They learned how to survive unnoticed. And when survival was no longer enough, they learned how to strike from nowhere. On the Dominion flagship, an officer frowned at his console. Commander, I'm seeing sensor inconsistencies. Zeos did not look away from the viewport. Explain. It's nothing specific, the officer said. Just gaps. Shadows where there shouldn't be any. Zeos' mandibles clicked in annoyance, then stopped looking for ghosts. Yes, Commander. The officer complied. The ghosts remained. The Prometheus drifted, silent and patient, not hiding, not threatening, waiting. Humanity had waited centuries. They could wait a few more hours. Far from the fleet, deep inside systems the Dominion had forgotten, silent web nodes completed their final task. They shut down, not permanently, just long enough to ensure that when the moment came, there would be no warning, no escape, no understanding. Elena closed her eyes briefly. This is the part they never see, she murmured. Torres nodded. They still think we showed up late. She opened her eyes. No, she said. We arrived years ago. And across the cold, uncaring stars, the Dominion advanced, confident, loud, certain. completely unaware that the most dangerous species in the galaxy had already vanished and was about to reappear. The first warning reached the Dominion 3 hours before destruction. It was dismissed in less than 3 seconds. On the bridge of the Eternal Sovereign, a junior sensor analyst frowned at his console. His 4 eyes tracked a ripple in the data. Subtle, inconsistent, wrong. "Commander," he said cautiously, "I'm detecting anomalous interference patterns along our forward sensor arc." Zeos did not turn. "Define anomalous." The analyst hesitated. "It's not noise, not a stellar phenomenon. The readings fold back on themselves." Silence stretched. "Ghost data," Zeo said at last. "Flush the buffer." "Yes, Commander." The warning vanished. The second signal came from outside the fleet. A relay station, one of thousands scattered across Dominion space, attempted to update navigational harmonics. The update failed, then succeeded, then failed again. The automated system flagged it as routine degradation and rerouted traffic. No alert was sent. No officer was notified. The Dominion trusted automation more than instinct. That was their third mistake. Humanity had studied this. They knew ancient empires feared chaos, not precision. They designed systems that filtered out anything that felt uncertain, inefficient, or strange. So humans made their presence feel like inefficiency. On the Prometheus, Lieutenant Park watched Dominion sensor activity with quiet focus. "They're smoothing their data," he said. "Autocorrection algorithms are rewriting the anomalies." Elena nodded. "They're teaching their systems to lie. Should we push harder?" Park asked. "No," she replied. "Let them convince themselves." The third warning came disguised as confidence. A Dominion escort cruiser performed a routine formation adjustment. Its engines hesitated for 0.07 seconds, barely measurable. But that hesitation propagated. Micro delays rippled through the formation, forcing correction loops to activate across multiple ships. The fleet remained perfect, but it was no longer synchronized. The Dominion did not notice. Humanity did. Long ago, human tacticians had stopped thinking in terms of ships and weapons. They thought in systems. Timing, trust, assumption. A fleet was not dangerous because of its firepower. It was dangerous because it believed it could not fail. High Commander Zeos felt irritation building, though he could not explain why. Reports arrived slightly out of order. Confirmations took longer than expected. The human ship continued to sit there, silent, patient, unmoving. "Why haven't they run?" he muttered. "They're afraid." An officer offered. Zeos did not reply. Fear did not behave like this. The fourth warning came as silence. A Dominion listening post, designed to detect exotic energy signatures, reported nothing. No background radiation. No stellar noise. No cosmic interference. Perfect emptiness. The system flagged it as a calibration error and rebooted. The silence persisted. Then the post went offline. The Dominion logged it as routine maintenance failure. On a hidden station far beyond the system boundary, a silent web node recorded the event, then powered down. Its task complete. Multiple Dominion subsystems are experiencing minor failures. Torres said quietly. Still no reaction. Elena studied the tactical map. "They're waiting for us to blink," she said. "We won't." "No." She paused. "They will." The fifth warning was personal. Zeos' communications officer leaned forward, unease creeping into his posture. "Commander, internal fleet chatter is increasing." "Increasing how?" "Questions. Clarifications. Officers asking for confirmations that shouldn't be necessary." Zeos' mandibles clicked sharply. "Discipline them." "Yes, Commander." The questions stopped. The doubt did not. Across the fleet, something unfamiliar was spreading. Not fear, confusion. The Dominion had never needed contingency plans for the unknown. They had never lost a battle where numbers were on their side. They had never faced an enemy that refused to behave correctly. On Meridian 7, civilians watched the sky. The Dominion fleet was now visible, a distant constellation of moving stars, beautiful and terrifying. They did not see the lone human ship. They did not know it was there. They only knew help had not come. Yet, the sixth warning arrived too late to matter. A Dominion science vessel, tasked with analyzing spatial distortions, finally noticed something wrong. Space around the human ship was misbehaving. Distances were inconsistent. Mass readings fluctuated without cause. Causality itself seemed uncertain. The science officer sent an urgent report. It was routed through 3 automated prioritization filters. Each one downgraded it. By the time it reached the Eternal Sovereign, it was marked non-critical. Zeos never saw it. Elena exhaled slowly. "They've crossed the threshold," she said. Torres frowned. "Which one?" "The one where stopping feels worse than continuing." Humanity had learned this lesson painfully. Retreat always looked like weakness to predators. But predators could not recognize traps. The Dominion fleet accelerated. 400 warships surged forward, confident, aligned, unstoppable. Their sensors told them nothing was wrong. Their systems told them everything was fine. Their enemy told them nothing at all. On the Prometheus, the Cascade engine continued to charge. Its presence pressed against the minds of the crew, not painfully but insistently. A reminder, a promise. "Core at 65%, engineering reported. Elena nodded. Maintain silence. "Yes, Captain." High Commander Zeos stood tall as the fleet closed on Meridian 7. Victory was inevitable. The humans had made a final, pathetic gesture. One ship, one message, one mistake. He allowed himself a thin smile. "Prepare planetary bombardment protocols," he ordered. "When we arrive, we end this." "Yes, Commander." The stars did not respond. They never did. On a forgotten relay station, power flickered one last time. A fragment of data escaped, unnoticed, uncategorized, unheeded. A single phrase embedded deep in corrupted telemetry. "Warning. Spatial cascade probability exceeds safe limits." It went nowhere. The fleet advanced. The colony waited. The lone human ship remained silent. And the galaxy crossed the final line between certainty and consequence. The Dominion believed every weapon announced itself. Energy spikes, charge signatures, targeting emissions. They believed violence followed rules they had written. Humanity did not build its greatest weapon to follow rules. They built it to end assumptions. Deep within Prometheus, behind layers of shielding that no Dominion scanner could penetrate, the Cascade engine continued to awaken. It did not hum. It did not glow. It pressed, not physically, but perceptually like gravity on the mind, a quiet insistence that something fundamental was bending. Dr. Amaro Conquo stood alone before it, hands clasped behind her back, watching data that no textbook had prepared her to understand. "Core stability?" she asked. "Nominal." Her lead engineer replied. "If we redefine nominal." Amara allowed herself a thin smile. "That will do." The Cascade engine was not a weapon in the traditional sense. It did not fire projectiles. It did not emit beams. It did not release energy outward. It did something far worse. It convinced reality to let go. Decades earlier, the question had seemed absurd. How do you defeat an enemy who will always outnumber you? The answer had not come from weapons designers or generals. It came from physicists. From people who stare at equations long enough to realize the universe was held together by agreements. Fragile, probabilistic agreements. Break those agreements, and everything else followed. Human scientists had learned early that space was not empty. It was structured, elastic, connected. What affected one point could affect another, if you knew where to push. The Cascade engine was not about force. It was about permission. Permission for atoms to forget how to stay atoms. Permission for matter to stop agreeing with itself. On the bridge, Captain Elena Vasquez listened to the reports with quiet focus. "Core coherence stable," Torres said. "Resonance phase entering final alignment." Elena nodded. "How long?" 40 minutes. She glanced at the tactical display. The Dominion fleet was accelerating. They were committed now. "They won't turn back," Torres said. "I know. The Dominion would never have built such a weapon. They had no reason to. For 50,000 years, They had won by overwhelming force. Why risk breaking reality when intimidation worked just fine? That was the difference. Humanity had never had the luxury of stability. Amar remembered the first successful test. A lifeless asteroid in deep space. No atmosphere. No gravity wells nearby. The engine activated. There was no explosion. No flash. The asteroid simply ceased. Not destroyed. Unmade. Sensors recorded a cascading failure of fundamental forces. Electromagnetic bonds dissolving. Strong nuclear forces decoupling. Space-time itself refusing to maintain coherence. The asteroid didn't break apart. It lost the concept of together. The test had lasted less than a second. The silence afterward had lasted hours. "You can't use this," someone had said. "We must," someone else replied. And in the end, the universe had answered for them. 30 minutes, engineering reported. Amara closed her eyes briefly. Once activated, the cascade engine could not be recalled. It would propagate outward in a controlled sphere, fast enough to outrun light, precise enough to avoid planetary mass. At least in theory. There were always margins, always risks. Humanity had learned to live with those. On Eternal Sovereign, High Commander Zeos felt the tension rise. "Why haven't they fired?" he demanded. His weapons officer hesitated. No targeting emissions detected. No shield fluctuations. No power surge. Zeos' claws tightened. "They insult us," he growled. "They think themselves beyond our notice." The human ship still did not move. That, too, was intentional. The cascade engine required stillness. Motion created noise. Noise disrupted alignment. So the Prometheus waited. Patient. Certain. 20 minutes, Torres said quietly. Elena exhaled. "Open a channel." Torres turned surprised. "Now?" "Yes." The Dominion deserved one last chance. The display flickered. Zeos appeared. Irritation etched into his posture. "Have you come to beg?" he asked. "No," Elena replied. "I've come to warn you." Zeos laughed. "Still pretending?" "You have a fleet," she said. "We have a moment." He leaned closer. "You think a moment can stop us?" Elena met his gaze. "No," she said softly. "I think it can end you." Something shifted. Not fear. Recognition. Too late. 15 minutes, engineering reported. The channel closed. The Dominion fleet advanced. The Cascade engine reached resonance. Inside its containment field, space-time folded inward, subtly, dangerously. It was not hungry. It was ready. Amara placed her hand on the console. "Authorization confirmed," she whispered. Around her, engineers worked in silence. No prayers, no speeches, just understanding. The Dominion never realized what they were seeing. Their sensors could not detect permission being revoked. They could not measure causality unraveling. They could not imagine a weapon that didn't announce itself. 5 minutes, Torres said. Elena stood. "All hands," she said calmly. "This is Captain Vasquez. What happens next will be remembered, not for what it destroys, but for what it prevents." No one responded. They didn't need to. On Meridian 7, the fleet filled the sky. People cried, held each other, waited. On the Prometheus, the Cascade engine reached full alignment. Time itself seemed to hesitate. 30 seconds, engineering reported. Zeos ordered bombardment preparations. Targeting solutions began to form. They would never complete. Elena closed her eyes. Humanity had tried everything else. Negotiation, retreat, silence. None of it had been enough. Now the galaxy would learn. 10. The stars seemed to dim. 9. Space tightened. 8. The Dominion's perfect formation held. 7. Reality stretched. 6. Somewhere, something screamed. 5. Zeos felt fear. True fear. 4. It was already too late. 3. Humanity spoke. 2. The universe listened. 1. The universe did not explode. It gave up. For a fraction of a second after the Cascade engine activated, nothing appeared to happen at all. No flash, No beam, no sound, just a subtle, impossible wrongness, as if the stars themselves had inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. On the bridge of the Prometheus, every display froze, not from failure, from overload. Reality was reporting values it had never been asked to calculate before. The wave left the ship without traveling. It did not move through space. It rewrote the rules that made distance matter. A cascading permission failure propagated outward, faster than light, faster than causality, faster than panic. The Dominion fleet never saw it coming. They could not. You cannot defend against a question you do not know exists. The first ship vanished 0.31 seconds after activation, a destroyer at the outer edge of the formation. Its crew registered confusion. Then nothing. The ship did not rupture, did not explode, did not break apart. It simply lost agreement. The bonds between its atoms loosened, then forgot why they were bonds at all. Matter unraveled. Structure dissolved. The destroyer became dust, then less than dust, then not even memory. The second ship lasted 0.27 seconds longer, long enough for its captain to scream an order, long enough for the sensors to register impossible readings, long enough for terror to begin. By the time the third ship vanished, panic spread across the fleet. Dominion officers shouted into dead channels. Weapons officers tried to fire at nothing. Shield generators surged uselessly against a force that did not strike them. They were being erased without impact, without resistance, without meaning. High Commander Zeos watched the impossible unfold. His tactical display disintegrated into static as ship after ship ceased to exist. "What is this?" he roared. No one answered. They were busy dying. The wave reached the main body of the formation. Battle cruisers, ancient vessels grown over centuries, lost cohesion in synchronized silence. Crystalline hulls cracked not from force, but from incompatibility. The universe no longer recognized them as valid objects. They shattered into luminous debris, then faded. Carriers followed. Support vessels. Logistics ships that had never seen combat. All gone. All equally irrelevant. The Dominion had conquered 17 species. They had burned worlds. They had erased cultures. They had never faced annihilation that did not bother to hate them. This was not revenge. This was not rage. This was correction. On Eternal Sovereign, alarm screamed too late. Power failed. Artificial gravity collapsed. Zeos felt weightlessness as fractures raced across the bridge walls like frozen lightning. "Emergency retreat," he shouted, but there was nowhere to retreat to. The wave did not care about direction. For the first time in 3 centuries of conquest, Zeos felt true fear. Not fear of death, fear of insignificance. His empire was not being defeated. It was being dismissed. He reached the communications console with desperate speed. If nothing else, the Dominion needed to know. He activated a tight beam burst toward home space. 1 sentence. All he had time for. They were never prey. The transmission cut off mid-thought. The Eternal Sovereign ceased to exist. The cascade wave reached maximum propagation 4.2 seconds after activation. 400 warships. Tens of thousands of lives. Gone. Not drifting wreckage. Not burning hulks. Nothing remained but expanding motes of incoherent matter, already thinning into nothingness. Space closed behind the wave like water after a stone. Silence returned. On the surface of Meridian 7, people stared at the sky. They had been screaming, praying, holding their children. Then the light came. Hundreds of pinpricks flared across the stars, brilliant, impossible, beautiful, like distant supernovas blooming all at once. And then, nothing. The fleet was gone. Governor Martinez stood frozen. Her display confirmed what her eyes could not believe. No incoming fire, an aide whispered. No fleet signatures. Another pause. No hostile contacts at all. On the Prometheus, the bridge crew remained silent. They had trained for this, prepared for this. Yet none of them spoke. Captain Elena Vasquez stared at the debris field dispersing into nothing. "Report," she said quietly. Lieutenant Park swallowed. "Dominion fleet neutralized. All 400 vessels. A pause. No survivors detected. Elena closed her eyes. She had known the cost. She had accepted it. But knowing never softened the weight. Commander Torres spoke carefully. Colony status? Meridian 7 unaffected, Park replied. The wave dissipated exactly as predicted. Safe. 200,000 lives saved. 50,000 children who would grow up never knowing how close extinction had come. That was the equation. Elena opened her eyes. That's why we're here, she said. Not triumph. Not pride. Purpose. Deep in the engineering bay, Dr. Amara Okonkwo exhaled for the first time in minutes. The Cascade engine powered down, its impossible geometry collapsing back into something that merely violated most laws of physics. Containment field stabilized. Reality settled. The universe accepted what had happened because it had no choice. Engine status? Elena asked. Stable, Amar replied. Dormant. No residual propagation. Good. This weapon was not meant to echo. The galaxy did not react immediately. Shock takes time to travel. But when it did, it would change everything. Across light years, sensors recorded the event. A Dominion armada erased in seconds. No opposing fleet. No visible weapon. Just absence. Empires recalculated. Admirals reread reports with shaking hands. Species who had lived under Dominion rule whispered a single forbidden word. Freedom. On the bridge, Torres finally spoke what everyone was thinking. They laughed at us. Elena nodded. They always do. She looked out at the stars. Once. The Prometheus turned slowly, leaving behind a battlefield that history would struggle to name. There were no wrecks to study, no technology to salvage, only a warning written into space-time itself. Humanity had not declared war. They had issued a boundary. Cross it, and the universe itself would enforce consequences. The galaxy did not erupt into chaos. It went silent, not the peaceful silence of empty space, but the tense, listening quiet of something that had just realized the rules had changed and was afraid to test the new ones. For 12 minutes after the destruction of the Dominion fleet, no major power transmitted anything. No threats. No demands. No ultimatums. Across thousands of systems, military commands froze in place, replaying sensor data that made no sense no matter how many times it was reviewed. 400 warships. Gone. No counterforce detected. No energy signature that fit known physics. Just absence. On the Kethral homeworld, the High Council sat in stunned disbelief. The Chamber, older than most civilizations, had seen wars, betrayals, triumphs. It had never seen fear like this. The fleet cannot be destroyed, one elder whispered. It was, another replied flatly. Screens replayed the final transmission from High Commander Zeos. They were never prey. Static, then nothing. For 50,000 years, the Dominion had ruled by certainty. Certainty of superiority. Certainty of inevitability. Certainty that resistance was temporary. That certainty was now dead. And empires built on certainty do not survive its loss. Across former Dominion space, subject species noticed something strange. Orders stopped coming. Overseers hesitated. Patrol ships failed to appear. For the first time in living memory, the whip did not fall. And when fear loosens its grip, even for a moment, hope rushes in like oxygen. The Vathra miners on Tarsus Prime were the first to stop working. They simply put down their tools. When the overseers shouted, no one moved. When weapons were raised, someone laughed. The sound spread. 2 days later, the Dominion garrison surrendered without a shot. They had seen the recordings. They understood what no command could force them to forget. On the Prometheus, the crew did not celebrate. There were no cheers, no speeches, just long, quiet hours as reports filtered in. Liberations, withdrawals, requests, fear. Captain Elena Vasquez stood alone on the observation deck, watching stars drift past. Behind her, Commander Torres approached softly. The United Earth Council is requesting your presence, he said. Immediately, She nodded. They'll want answers. They'll want reassurance, Torres corrected. They're afraid. Elena smiled faintly. Good. The council chamber on Earth was filled beyond capacity. Governments, admirals, scientists, diplomats, all staring at one woman who commanded a single ship that had rewritten galactic power. Secretary General Marcus Chin spoke first. You've changed everything. Elena did not deny it. Yes. Every major power is watching us now, he continued. Some with fear, some with anger, some with interest. Elena folded her hands calmly. Then they're finally paying attention. A general rose from his seat. Captain, Admiral, what you demonstrated was not defense. It was annihilation. Are we prepared for the consequences? Elena met his gaze. We prepared for extinction for 2 centuries. This is easier. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. She continued, we did not use the Cascade engine to dominate. We used it to draw a line so clear it could not be misunderstood. Another delegate asked quietly, what if they cross it anyway? Elena's answer was immediate. Then they will not do it twice. Silence followed. Then, slowly, something shifted. Not fear, understanding. Within a week, the first formal message arrived from a non-human power. Not a threat, a greeting. It acknowledged humanity as a sovereign equal. That phrase spread faster than any fleet ever could. Equal, not prey, not target. Equal. More messages followed. Treaties proposed. Borders renegotiated. Ancient grudges reconsidered. Species that had never dared speak now sent envoys. The galaxy did not suddenly become peaceful, but it became cautious. And caution was something humanity could work with. On Meridian 7, life resumed. Children returned to school. Fields were replanted. People slept without emergency sirens for the first time in weeks. They erected a small monument outside the capital. It did not depict a ship. It did not depict a weapon. It was simply a stone slab engraved with a single line. We were protected. Back aboard the Prometheus, Dr. Amaro Okonkwo stared at the dormant Cascade engine. It looked harmless now, almost mundane. She knew better. Do you regret it? Elena asked quietly, joining her. Amara considered. I regret that the universe required it. Elena nodded. So do I? They stood in silence. Neither of them believed humanity was finished fighting, but for the first time, the fight would not be for survival alone. Far from Earth, on worlds that had never heard of humans until days ago, children asked their elders new questions. Who are they? Why does the Dominion fear them? The answers were hesitant. They endured. They learned. They waited. History struggled to name the event. The Battle of Meridian 7 didn't fit. There was no battle, no exchange, just a moment when an empire realized too late that cruelty breeds consequences. Eventually, historians settled on something simpler, the correction. Captain Elena Vasquez was promoted, then promoted again. She refused a monument, refused parades, accepted only one thing, command, because she knew this truth better than anyone. Peace is not maintained by hope. It is maintained by readiness. As the Prometheus slipped into quiet orbit above Earth, Elena looked out at the stars. No longer cold, no longer distant. They were watching now, all of them, and for the first time in human history. They were careful. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had done something far more dangerous. They had proven they could not be erased, and that knowledge would echo for Eve.